Okay, well, it looks like it's time for some more SPQR goodness. In this case, it's the Battle Caralis. It's on Sardinia during the Second Punic War. The Italians the Romans sort of vacillated as to what to do about Sardinia at the end of the First Punic War. There was a revolt there at the same time as the big mercenaries revolt that we played a couple scenarios from, and they kind of waited for that to die down and then went and took it later. Carthage wasn't able to get it back though. And then this is a battle at the same time. You've got, Hannibal over in Italy marching around, devastating things and really threatening Rome. You've got big fights going on in Spain like we just played. Now, there was just a major defeat for the Carthaginians in Spain. And all this news is coming in at the same time that there's a revolt that starts in Sardinia. And it's started by machinations on the Carthaginian side. And both the outgoing commander in Sardinia and the current the leaders of the revolt say, hey, we need more troops. This is big. Sardinia was important because from it they could really raid the Italian coast very well. So what ends up happening is both sides send reinforcements here. Now, it's kind of funny because you see the Carthaginian effort and how they judge different things. They left Hannibal in Italy, sent him a few thousand cavalry, some elephants, and that's it. But here they sent like 12,000 men, and they sent the army they were originally going to reinforce Hannibal with by sea into Spain. Another 12,000 or so men. The Romans sent a significant force in as well, under an old and respected leader. No one too glorious, but they had lost a lot of people recently. They had lost a lot of their first choices. So an older man comes in, acts very cautiously, but very effectively, and doesn't try to smash the Carthaginians separately or anything like that. He engages them, but then pulls back when it looks like he might be actually risking his army. He's converted not only combined the troops that were already in the Carthaginian garrison, or the Sardinian garrison, which was quite heavy. I believe it was a double legion, a full consular legion. But he's got almost that much on his own, and then with his new troops. And then he adds to that, these are the gray units here from the 19th Legion. Those are actually his sailors and rowers from the ships that brought him over. He conscripts them into his army, and they'll be acting mainly as velites, but he also has some cohort units. Probably a little too well rated for what they would be, but you wouldn't want them fighting in a non-Roman fashion. He had some time to train them. He didn't have a full chance to integrate everyone. His own legion is is not a veteran one either. So he's got oh no, this one over here, right? Yeah, he's got one veteran legion, one kind of green legion, and then those even more questionable troops. Facing him, what Carthage has put on the field is kind of small, to tell you the truth. We've got your phalanx, your Iberians, your Balearic slingers, a few elephants, a few cav, Numidians over here. And then we've got Sardinian home forces, the rebellion itself here. And we're using there aren't many Sardinian counters, but we're using a bunch of light infantry, kind of lower quality, and then some Celtic infantry without any special rules to apply to it. Again, kind of low quality. This is stuff that the Romans should be able to handle quite well with what they've got on the field. This should probably not be a hard fight. The points go, well, let's see, the Carthaginians need 125 to rout, the Romans need 130. That means they have a slightly larger army because the route ratios are about 35%. I think they have a higher quality army overall. I'm going to have to do a lot to make the Carthaginians work in this. And I'm going to try playing around a little bit more with some of the rules I don't usually use when I'm relying on the heavier units to take the day. I'm going to see if I can be tricky enough, maybe with these skirmishers and with the light infantry, to try to pull things off a little bit more. I've got a little more room than I do in a lot of the battles. So maybe that'll help a little. Alright, let's see. So all the inferior Roman generals or leaders have moved forward, and I pushed the line forward. We can see how quickly they've closed that distance. It makes it hard to find that maneuver room to do the skirmisher tactics. Could I, try to grab initiative and run forward ahead of time? Yeah, maybe. But it just doesn't feel comfortable to me to do so, to risk not getting any action at all. At least with this I can charge forward, shoot, and maybe pull back. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I guess with the skirmishers, because I don't think they have to pay to change direction. Cav staying just out of range of where the Numidians can really harass it. But they can harass the Velites that charged forward, and I'm sure they will. Now we're pretty much on an all-Carthaginian turn. And you'll notice one thing, I didn't flip the counters. That's something I don't like to do on the first turn. No reason to put that extra effort in when everything's pretty clear. As long as I don't walk away from the table, I'm going to understand what's going on. Well, try as I might, I just couldn't convince myself to do it. I brought the skirmishers up within one space, but bringing them in to try to sling, they need a 0 through 2 to hit. Javelineers need a 0 through 6. And then the slingers can turn and run, but it's just too much of a chance of speeding up the engagement by having them try to skirmish. They'll break more quickly. It seems more valuable to me to give them the defensive advantage against the Velites, even if it doesn't even really mean losing a hex, because if they ran up, fired, and ran back, they just wouldn't get, they'd still be in the same location. It looks to me like they'd be very valuable if they can get a flanking attack or something like that, but right now they're just a screen. They're a speed bump, as they've been in other games, and there's not much more you can do with them. Charging up forward actually will likely weaken them to the point they're more likely to break. The elephants, however, did smash in. One of them ended up getting scared and rampaging, not doing any real damage. But the others smashed through the Velites, and we see 3 Velites running because of that. And because of the good leadership, the elephants have been able to be recovered up to full quality. The Romans aren't going to be able to move anything. Well, they actually could take advantage of using him and a second move to activate some of the units in the elephants' vicinity if they desired to do so. And now we got later lines of Carthaginians. But here I am going to make my... I'm going to try to position so that there's more room to fall back. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use that, but I want to use this extra space that I've got, although the Romans covered it quite nicely, to not just engage the Romans head on, as I usually do. I don't think that's a very helpful move for me. And then, of course, I've also got the cav to play with. So Carthage has decided to hold back with their main line. I think they moved up 1 hex forward. Let me make sure that 1 cav... no, that's not part of it. They moved the 1 space forward in order to give a little bit of breathing room with the heavier stuff, but the main idea here is try to make things as slow as possible, see if the cav, what little there is, can win the battle, or at least really disrupt the Roman army. Right now they engaged the Roman cav and actually got a pretty good fight out of it. Remember, the Romans didn't want to expose a flank, but the Numidians charged up, hit them anyway, straight on. Lighter cav, no problem. We're better. They scared away one of these. The heavy cav chased, one of the Velites, to its doom and ended up in front of some other Romans. Now the Roman cav is kind of stuck, having to try to fight its way through there, and there's a couple loose cav that can smack them around. There's a good chance that they're going to get finished off. The question is, will Mago be able to keep the cav from running off the field, chasing the Roman cav? That's always a risk here. If it does, he has to bring them back, and then maybe that's going to be more painful. He needs to have his cav to start hitting the Roman cav on the side, the Roman infantry, and start disrupting that, because that Roman army is just so much more powerful than what's sitting in front of it here, that I have to take these risks, kind of. What's in the front? It's just not enough to hold up. I mean, I know that these lights, yeah, they're kind of nice, and there's better leadership for Carthage, but they're just not going to be able to stand their ground against what's coming. It's one of those weird situations that can happen in this game. Only the lowest ranked Roman leader went, charged the Velites forward, actually drove a couple of the elephants out of the way, largely sent the slingers running, which is always the effect. That's why I thought about doing the skirmishing. And it may have been a wise idea. March forward, try to trade shots one-on-one, and then march back. Of course, the Velites have a better to-hit roll. I don't... But, you know, when the skirmishers are just going to break in front of the enemy, and when they can't do much to them anyhow, it may be better to just try to delay them that way. I don't know. No matter what, they're not going to be terribly effective. So anyway, the Velites are going to be running up against these light infantry, who are essentially the same as they are. And there's not much behind them. So. But here's the thing. Die roll of doom came up. Turn ended. It's all over. We go to the next turn, and that same Roman leader will get to go again. Finish off those slingers probably, or smack, recover and or smack into the light infantry there. Point-wise, we don't have a lot. 6 points for the Carthaginians and only 4 for the Romans towards their tactical quality lost, our army quality. Not much happened here. Alright, well, I'll just move the routed and I'll load this up.